Snow lifts off the Neva like smoke and rattles along the palace cornices. In a basement room at the Moika, light from a coal stove makes the wallpaper glow the color of old honey. A gramophone wheezes through a popular tune. A tray waits on the table, sugared cakes, wine in the thick glass, coffee that's gone lukewarm. The door opens. A tall man in a peasant coat steps in, beard wet with melted snow, eyes that seem to take the room in at once. Grigori Rasputin smiles, crosses himself, and asks where the princess is. Prince Felix Yusupov tells him she's upstairs and will come later. Rasputin sits, reaches for a cake, and the long night that will end in legend begins. By late 1916, Petrograd runs on rumors and cold air. Russia is bleeding men at the front. Breadlines snake past shuttered shops. The Tsarina leans on Rasputin's counsel, while the Tsar rides the trains to headquarters. To courtiers who have watched the empire creak, Rasputin looks like the wedge that's prying everything apart. Holy man, healer, hanger-on, and, in their minds, a corrupting force inside the palace. Prince Yusupov, heir to a fortune older than the Romanovs, decides that removing the man will save the throne. He gathers a circle. Grand Duke Dmitri Pavlovich, a royal cousin, the right-wing deputy Vladimir Purishkevich, Lieutenant Sergei Sukhotin, and a physician, Dr. Stanislaw Lazovert. They borrow a story to bait the hook. Rasputin will be introduced to Yusupov's wife, Irina, the Tsar's niece. She isn't there. The promise is the point. December 29th, 1916, by Russia's old calendar. December 16th by the old style, the night running into the 30th by the new. A snowstorm softens the city. A car brings Rasputin through the side gate of the Yusupov Palace. Upstairs, the conspirators pour glasses, pace, and listen for steps. Downstairs, Yusupov sits with his guest. The table is set in a way that looks casual but isn't. Some accounts say the cakes and wine were laced with cyanide by the doctor, a detail the prince later leaned on in his memoir. Autopsy testimony after the body is found will not confirm poison, and modern historians doubt any was used. What is certain is that Rasputin eats, drinks, and keeps talking. Time grinds. Nothing changes. Yusupov takes up a guitar, strums, makes small talk, and feels the plan sagging under the weight of minutes. He steps upstairs, where Purishkevich insists it's time to end it. Back down in the basement, Yusupov asks Rasputin to examine a crucifix. As Rasputin turns, the prince raises a pistol and fires. The bullet slams into Rasputin's side and he falls. The room goes suddenly, shockingly quiet. Yusupov runs up to announce that it's done. They pour drinks. They tell each other the country is saved. When Yusupov returns to be certain, the body moves. Rasputin's eyes open. He surges up with a noise between a shout and a growl, grabs at the prince's shoulder, and fights past him for the stairs. He makes the courtyard, boots scraping on snow and grit, and lurches toward the gate. Purishkevich charges after him and fires, missing once, then hitting him from behind. Rasputin staggers, turns, and Purishkevich fires again. Another shot drives him down. In the aftermath, as they drag him back inside, a final pistol round is delivered to the head to make sure the struggle is over. The basement smells of gun smoke, wine, and blood. They need the body gone before daylight. Yusupov and Dmitri call for a sack, rope, heavy cloth. Legend will make it a carpet. They load the bundle into a car and roll through the sleeping city to a bridge over a side channel of the Neva. The night air is iron and frost. The ice has not sealed the river yet. They heave the weight over the rail. For a second it jams on an iron brace. Purishkevich works at it with a boot, and it drops, breaking through the skin of ice with a slap and a slow gulp. Headlights fade. Tire tracks fill with snow. The city hears almost at once. The next day, police collect rumors and footprints. Within hours, officials know where to look. On January 1st, January 14th, new style, a body is found under the ice of the Malaya Nevka. A tuft of hair waves in the current. The corpse is carried to the Chesmensky hospital and laid out on a slab. Dr. Dmitri performs the autopsy. He notes 3 gunshot wounds, one in the side, one in the back, one to the forehead. He does not find evidence of poison. Whether there was water in the lungs, proof of drowning, will become part of the fog. The official record does not support it. The shots, especially the head wound, would have been fatal. The later tale that he was poisoned, shot, beaten, and still alive until the river took him makes for a story, but it isn't what the doctor wrote. Back at the palace, the conspiracy starts to buckle under the weight of its own success. The Tsarina sees assassination, not rescue. She orders arrests. Grand Duke Dmitri Pavlovich is sent into exile. Yusupov is banished to his family estate in the interior, later to the Crimea. Purishkevich escapes formal punishment, but knows he will carry the mark of the deed. Dr. Lazavert fades from view. The police trace the movements easily. The men who killed Rasputin were proud of what they had done and expected thanks. They misread the moment. Alexandra believed Rasputin's presence kept the air alive. She would never accept the killing as patriotic. The burial is rushed. Rasputin's body is placed in a simple coffin, then interred near the imperial residence at Tsarskoye Selo under guard and snow. The guard will not last. When the February Revolution breaks in 1917 and power slides away from the dynasty the conspirators meant to save, the new authorities dig up the grave. Accounts describe a hasty cremation near a boiler plant, flames whipped by wind, bone collapsing into bright ash, and an end that won't be undone by relic hunters. The legend rises as quickly as the smoke. Stories of poison that failed, bullets that had no effect, a demon who refused to die, suit the mood of a country looking for simple symbols in a complicated collapse. Rasputin becomes the man who cursed the throne, the holy devil, the peasant, who pulled down an empire by whispering into a queen's ear. The men who shot him tell it large and keep telling it. Later films will finish the work. What the record shows is smaller and colder. A group of nobles organized a murder in a basement, fired multiple shots, and dumped the body into a winter river. The autopsy fits the physics. The empire fell not because one man lived too long, but because a war and a system had exhausted themselves. Rasputin himself fed the prophecy. Weeks before his death, he wrote to the Tsar, "If he died at the hands of common folk, the dynasty would endure. If nobles killed him, the imperial family would fall within 2 years." That letter is held up after the murders to prove a kind of second sight. You don't need mysticism to see what he saw. He lived at court. He heard the fear in voices that pretended to command. He knew how thin the ice was. The aftermath is fast and merciless. In March 1917, the Tsar abdicates. That summer and fall, governments rise and crack. In July 1918, in a basement in Ekaterinburg, a firing squad ends the Romanov line. Yusupov and Dmitri make it out of Russia and into long exile. Purishkevich dies of typhus 2 years later. Petrograd changes its name, and the palace on the Moika becomes a museum, where guides can point to a room and say, "This is where the music played. This is where the cake sat. And this is where a decision that felt like salvation turned out to be one more step toward the edge." Strip the story back to the boards, and you get a winter city, a tired empire, and a handful of men who believed that a single act could correct a course years in the making. In the basement, the gramophone winds down. Across town, soldiers stamp their boots in snow and wonder when their trains will come. On the river, the ice closes over and waves push black against the stone. Thank you for listening to Last Post History. Subscribe for more true stories from the world at war.